This family gave me everything my real family never did. My daughter Emily stood in front of 300 people. Crystal lights hung from the ceiling. White cloths covered the tables. Her voice was calm and clear. She looked like a movie star. I smiled and quietly took out my phone. I typed one text. That text would change everything in the next minute. What happened next would haunt Emily's perfect night for a long time. If you want, press subscribe and tell me where you watch from. But I will say this first. I should explain how we came to this point. Still, at that moment, watching my only daughter humiliate me publicly while wearing the expensive dress I had secretly paid for felt like the last straw. I had been hurting quietly for years. The dress cost more than my small house was worth to me. I had paid for it because I loved her. Now she was praising the Harrisons as the kind of parents who gave children everything. Her words cut like ice. "Mrs. Harris and Mr. Harris taught me what love looks like," Emily said. The crowd clapped softly. Some faces turned toward me with that polite look people make when they think it is proper to be kind to the mother. Mr. Harrison raised his glass. Mrs. Harrison dabbed at her eyes with a lace napkin. Adam, my new son-in-law, stood beside Emily. He looked uneasy for the first time that evening. My mouth went dry. For 22 years I had worked and saved. I had gone without many small comforts, so Emily could go to dance class, study abroad, and live in a better apartment when she first moved to the city. Her father died when she was 15. I raised her on my own. I never expected silver spoons. I expected love. The phone buzzed. I thought about standing up and leaving. That would have been the dignified thing to do. But dignity had left me years ago. I had no pride left to waste. Instead, I stood up, slow and steady. My chair scraped on the polished floor. The sound sliced through the music like a knife. Suddenly all eyes were on me. "Don't let me stop you, sweetheart." I called out loud enough to be heard. "Please go on and tell everyone how useless I was." Emily's face turned red. "Mom, that's not," she began, but I was not finished. "You are right," I said. "I was a poor mother. I worked 2 jobs so you could have dance lessons. I saved for your college instead of booking trips. I bought cheaper groceries so you could afford name-brand shoes. I did not mean to be perfect. I just wanted you to have chances." Silence fell. Even the string quartet paused. Emily looked at me with cold eyes. "This is the perfect moment for you to go," she said. That was when Adam stepped forward. For a man who barely spoke to me all night, he found his voice at a dramatic time. He said 5 words that made the whole room inhale sharply. She paid for the whole wedding. The glass in someone's hand slipped and broke on the floor. The sound rang like a bell. Emily seemed stunned. "What do you mean?" she whispered. Adam said it again. "She paid for everything." People turned their heads. The Harrisons stood frozen. Mrs. Harrison's color left her face. Mr. Harrison sat tight and did not move. Some guests stared like they watched a trick being revealed on stage. The chandelier light caught the fallen pieces and made them look like tiny stars. I had paid for the venue, the food, the cake, the flowers, the music, everything. I had taken out a loan to do it. I had hidden it because I did not want Emily to feel shame for asking for my help. I thought it would make her night better. I thought she would be happy. I believed she would never know. On that stage, Adam explained that he learned the truth. He had called the country club and the vendors. He had asked for proof of payments. He had found none from the Harrisons. They had planned the wedding, but they had not paid. I had made the payments, so Emily could keep her dream. I watched Emily's face. It changed in an instant. She looked like someone who had been holding a mask for a long time, and then saw the face behind it. She tried to say that it was a team effort. Adam cut her off and then told the guests about our money. He talked about the house we owned, about my pension, about the loan I had been paying. He said, our life was quiet and cautious. He said, I had been careful with money. He did not call me rich. He just said he had no idea I would go this far for his wife. My heart beat loud in my ears. I felt a strange mix of shame and relief. Shame because Emily had announced to everyone that we were not a real family. Relief because at last someone told the truth out loud. The room was loud with whispers. Emily's face drained of color. She asked me how I could have done this. "Why would you take a loan?" she asked. I said, "Because you are my child. You said you wanted this. I wanted to protect you from being embarrassed in front of the people you care about." Emily looked at Adam and then at the guests. She seemed to be thinking how to spin this into something else. People around the room began to murmur again. The Harrisons looked angry and surprised. Some people considered me brave. Some people saw me as foolish. That is how the evening changed. What began as a speech about gratitude turned into a public family argument. The music started again, but it sounded wrong. The place where laughter had been felt like a stage with a sudden, heavy silence. I had spent years giving, and the moment finally came when my giving was shown to the world. I felt both exposed and oddly free. That night came after years of small emergencies that always needed money. 22 years ago, Emily was a college student home for spring break. Her friends were going to a ski trip. Emily came to me in tears. "Everyone is going to Aspen," she said. "I can't go. I don't have the money." I had a small job then. I worked as an office manager at a tiny firm. We had a mortgage and bills. I had little extra. I could have said no. I could have told her we could not afford it, but I remembered how she was always careful. She studied while her friends partied. She worked part-time to help pay rent. I wanted her to feel normal for once. So I borrowed money. I took out a small second mortgage on our house. $5,000 for a week in the snow. It felt like a small amount then. Emily promised to pay me back after she graduated. She never did. The loan changed in her mind into something else. It became a gift that made everything easier for her. Then she asked for help again. A summer abroad, a security deposit on an apartment, a fee for a course that would help her get a job. Each time she said she could not ask anyone else. Each time I said yes. Years passed and I kept helping. She moved to the city. She found a good job in marketing. She dated a man named Adam Harrison. The Harrisons seemed kind and warm. They had a big house and they moved in circles. I did not know. Emily started spending holidays at their home. She called Patricia Harrison Mom. I was happy she had more family. Soon they began to plan a wedding. Emily called and cried with joy. "Patricia knows the right people," she said. "They can give us the full package." She told me it would cost $75,000. I had $800 in my bank account and a credit card almost full, but I did not say no. I said, "That is wonderful." I did not tell her I had used my savings on her graduate school or on her apartment move. I wanted her to be happy. When she said she wanted to help with the venue fee, just $25,000, I felt a familiar tug. I asked myself how to refuse without hurting her pride. I took a home equity loan, $30,000, with $5,000 as a cushion. I told myself it was the last time. I told myself I could manage the payments. The dress Emily wanted cost $10,000. The shoes cost $1,500. Jewelry and small extras added up. The bills came in. The country club required deposits. The caterer wanted checks. The florist wanted payment. I paid each one quietly. I told myself I was protecting my daughter's dignity. I told myself that when she and Adam were settled, they would know how deep my love ran, and they would say thank you. Then the wedding happened. Emily stepped up to speak. She talked about how the Harrisons had shown her what a real family was. She thanked them in front of everyone. I felt the sting of her words. I smiled and pretended I did not care. Inside I was breaking. That is when Adam spoke up. He told the truth. He said the Harrisons planned everything, but they did not pay. He told the guests I had paid. I watched Emily change. She had built a story in her head where other people did the heavy lifting. She had used the idea of rich in-laws to explain her life. In her story, I was the nag and the critic, never the giver. I had never asked to be a saint. I only wanted to help my child. Adam's words cut through her story and the guests' applause. After the speech, Emily tried to fix it. She said we shared the cost, but Adam was clear. She paid for it all. he said. The word all landed heavy in the room. I saw the faces change. Some guests looked shocked, others looked embarrassed. Some people looked at me with a new respect. It did not matter. The truth was out. When the conversation turned to the future, another truth came out. Emily and Adam had plans based on money they thought was available. They had found a house. They had a line number they were proud of. They had chosen a home near Adam's family. They assumed family support would help with the down payment. They assumed that fertility treatments would be paid if needed. They assumed I had money saved for such things. Those assumptions were not true. I own a house. Yes, but parts of it had been used to create the money I gave Emily. I had no secret fund. I had taken loans and used savings. I had cut my own life small to keep her life large. That was the truth. After the wedding, I thought about walking away. I could have left quietly. But I had given too much for that to feel right. We talked late into the night. Emily asked me to help again. She wanted money for a down payment. She wanted funds for medical treatment. Adam called the next day and asked me to think about it. They offered to write a contract. They promised to pay me back with interest. I had heard those promises before. I told them I could not. I told them I had debt now. I said I had little left. I refused to be their safety net again. They asked for smaller sums. They promised to make payments. I said no. I was done. I set a new boundary. By the next week, the drama changed into something worse. My bank called. Someone had tried to increase my credit line. The request used my name and my documents. The signature looked like mine. I had not made the request. The bank froze the action and called me. The fraud specialist said the papers were detailed. Someone knew a lot about me. I feared the worst. I thought about who had access to my documents. Then I remembered all the times Emily had helped with forms and bills. She knew how I wrote my name. She had lived with me and signed things. My stomach turned. I drove to the bank. I felt sick and angry. The bank found the application. It looked like my handwriting. But not exactly. It was a forgery clear enough to fool a bank if no one checked. I asked myself who would do this. The answer settled cold in my mind. My own daughter. When I asked Adam, he admitted that Sarah had tried it. He said he tried to stop her and told her it was wrong. He said he did not think she would go through with it. But she did. She forged my signature and tried to increase my credit. The police arrested her 2 days later. When they told me she was taken from her office, I did not feel what I expected. I felt calm. I felt certain. That calm felt like decision. I had spent years enabling her. She had crossed a line. She had broken the law. I called the police and filed a report. I told the truth, and I would not change. Months later, the court found her guilty. She went to prison for a while. Adam left her. She lost her job. I did not visit. I did not send letters. I did not send money. The years we had together had been a lesson that love must sometimes include hard consequences. When she was free again and had learned to be honest, I decided I would be ready to be her mother again, not to support her every whim, not to bail her out, but to love her with limits. I had paid a high price for that lesson, but in the end I found a freedom I had not known. I felt the lightness of living my life without paying for another's choices. It was the oddest kind of peace. After the wedding, silence filled my house like fog. The noise of that ballroom still echoed in my head, the clinking of glasses, the gasps, the whispers. For the first time in 22 years, I did not feel guilt for saying no. I felt tired, but free. The next morning, the phone started ringing. It was Emily. I didn't answer. She called again. I ignored it. She called 6 times before noon. Then came the text messages. Then a note slipped under my door, written in her neat handwriting. Mom, I'm so sorry. Please call me. I love you. I didn't mean to hurt you. Family forgives. Love, Emily. I read it twice. It was full of emotion, but empty of understanding. She didn't say why she had hurt me. She didn't mention the speech or the loan or the humiliation. She just wanted things to go back to normal. The kind of normal where I paid. And she forgot. At 9:15, she called again. This time, I picked up. "Mom, thank God you answered. I was so worried about you," she said. "I'm fine, Emily," I said quietly. I drove home safely. Good, good. I just think we need to talk about what happened last night. There were some misunderstandings. Misunderstandings? I asked. Like what? Well, she began. I didn't know you took a loan for the wedding. If I had known that, I never would have accepted such a generous gift. She called it a gift. Not a sacrifice. Not debt. A gift. Emily, I said. You asked me to help cover the venue cost. You said you wanted to pay your part. I did, she said. But I meant maybe a few thousand, not $87,000. You should have told me you were going to pay for everything. You're right, I said, calmly. I should have told you the Harrisons weren't paying a penny. They only planned it. I paid every vendor myself. She paused. That's not possible. Patricia told me she was handling all the payments. Handling isn't paying, I said. I called each vendor. No money came from the Harrisons. They planned your wedding, but I paid for it. There was a long silence. I could hear her breathing. Then she said, Did Adam know? Yes, I said. Adam knew. Her voice trembled. Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't you ask? Emily, I said softly. You signed contracts. You made choices. Didn't you ever wonder why no one asked you for your card or your signature? I thought Patricia was just being generous. She was generous with my money, I said. I could hear the shock in her breathing. Then came the soft, broken voice of a child who realized something terrible. Mom, I feel so stupid. You're not stupid, I said. You're just used to being saved. Every time there's a problem, I fix it. I never let you face the real world. I'm sorry, she said. You were right. Then her voice changed. Softer, needier. But Mom, what am I going to do now? Adam is upset. He's talking about canceling the house offer, delaying the treatments. Our whole future is falling apart. And there it was. The reason for the call. Not guilt. Not love. Fear of losing her plans. What are you asking me, Emily? I'm asking if we can find a way. Maybe a small loan? Maybe I can pay you back slowly, just until things calm down. For what? I asked. The house? Yes, she said quickly. The down payment. Maybe part of the treatments. It's only a matter of time until Adam forgives me. I just need to show him things are fine. Emily, I said. I have a mortgage now. I owe the bank $30,000 because of your wedding. I don't have any more money. But Mom, she said, voice cracking, this house is an investment. The treatments are time sensitive. Please. Then you should have planned this before spending what you didn't have, I said gently. Mom, we can't change the past. I'm just asking you to help. Family helps family. Family does help family, I said. But tell me, Emily, when have you helped me? There was silence. What do you mean? She asked. I mean, when have you ever asked if I needed help? Have you ever offered to pay my bills? Buy groceries? Check if I had money for repairs? You never did, because my problems never mattered to you. That's not fair, she whispered. It's the truth, I said. And for once, you'll have to live with it. Mom, please don't do this. Don't punish me. I'm not punishing you, I said. I'm protecting myself. And for the first time in 22 years, I hung up on my daughter. I thought hanging up would end it. It didn't. Emily had never accepted no in her life, not as a child, not as an adult. 2 days later, the phone rang again. This time, it was Adam. His voice was calm, polite, and careful, like someone walking on glass. Mrs. Miller, he said, I wanted to thank you again for your advice after the wedding. It helped. You're welcome, I said. How are things? They're complicated, he said. Emily's trying to understand everything. We've been talking about money, about boundaries. I wanted to ask something, not for her, for me. Go ahead. He took a breath. You said you never set clear boundaries before. I wonder if there's a way to do that now. A middle ground that works for everyone. I waited. I knew what was coming. Emily and I looked over our finances, he continued. We realize we've been living above our means. We've canceled the big house offer. But there are still a few urgent expenses. We're willing to downsize everything, except one thing. The treatments, I asked. Yes, he said softly. The fertility treatments. The doctor said waiting another year might be too late for Emily. We found a clinic that allows payment plans. We'd only need a $5,000 down payment. $5,000, I said slowly. Yes, and he hesitated. We're also looking at a small townhouse, much cheaper than the first one. We'd cover most of it, but a $10,000 contribution from you would secure the down payment. You'd get it back when we sell. So, I said, $15,000 total? Yes, ma'am. And we'd pay you back, I promise. Why me, Adam? I asked. You both work. You both earn. Why come to a 68-year-old woman with a loan to pay? He hesitated. Because we don't have time to save, and because you love her. I do love her, I said. But love doesn't mean I must pay every bill she creates. She's terrified, Adam said quietly. She thinks you stopped loving her. I'll always love her, I said. But maybe she needs to learn that love and money aren't the same. He sighed. Would you at least have dinner with us? No money talk. Just a chance to rebuild peace? I paused. I should have said no. But a mother's heart rarely does what her head knows best. All right, I said. Dinner. But if you bring up money, I'm leaving. He agreed. The restaurant was called Riverside Grill. Nice place. Too nice. Meals there cost more than my weekly groceries. Emily was already seated. Her eyes were red. She had been crying. She hugged me and whispered, "Thank you for coming." Adam pulled my chair out. "You look lovely, Mrs. Miller." We ordered. I chose the cheapest meal. They chose wine and salmon. Emily took a deep breath. "Mom, I owe you an apology. A real one. What I said at the wedding was wrong. I was trying to thank Adam's family, and I made you sound like you did nothing for me. I'm sorry." I nodded. "I appreciate that. I also thought about what you said. About how I never helped you. You're right. I didn't. You always acted strong, so I assumed you didn't need help. I was wrong." She looked up, eyes wet. "I want to make it right. I want to pay you back. Pay me back." I asked softly. "Yes, not all at once. Maybe $500 a month." I even made a list. She took out a paper. The ski trip, school, apartment, wedding. It's about $200,000. It's $237,000. I said I kept receipts. She froze. "Oh," Adam spoke. "We can't pay that now, but we want to start. Or maybe invest together. If you help with the townhouse, you could own part of it. You'd get your money back later." "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want me to give you more money, but call it an investment." When said aloud, it sounded absurd. Even Adam winced. "Mom," Emily said, "please don't see it like that. Think of it as joining our future." "Emily," I said, "you're 42. He's 45. If you still need me to fund your future, then you're not ready for one." "That's not fair," she said. "Families help each other. Families who can afford it," I said quietly. "I can't." Her lip trembled. "Mom, I'm scared. I might never have children. Adam might leave me. I'm scared I ruined everything." For a moment, I saw my little girl again. The one who cried over lost toys and scraped knees. But this wasn't about scraped knees anymore. This was about a woman who never learned the word enough. "Emily," I said softly, "fear doesn't give you the right to take what isn't yours. You must live within your limits." "Mom, this is my only chance." "Then maybe," I said, standing up, "you'll have to learn to make peace with what you have." "Please." "No," I said firmly. "I'm done being your solution." And for the second time in 1 week, I walked away from my daughter. I thought leaving that restaurant was the final time I would see my daughter beg for money. I thought maybe, finally she would understand that I had nothing left to give. But I was wrong. Emily had always believed that money could fix everything and that her mother would always find it. 3 days later, my phone rang early in the morning. It wasn't Emily this time. It was my bank. "Mrs. Miller," said a voice I knew well. It was Jennifer, the manager who'd helped me for over 15 years. Her tone was soft but uneasy. "I'm calling about something unusual with your home equity account. We received a request to increase your credit limit from $30,000 to $75,000. It came through online with your name and signature." My hand went cold around the phone. "I didn't request that," I said quickly. "That's what I suspected," she said. "The signature doesn't match perfectly, and you've never submitted anything online before. But whoever did this used your exact documents, your pension details, your account numbers, even your last loan agreement." I sat in silence for a long moment. My heart was pounding. "Mrs. Miller," she continued gently, "is there anyone who might have access to your personal papers or computer? Sometimes it's a family member trying to help." Family member. The words hit me like ice water. There was only one person who had seen all my papers. One person who had helped me sign forms and store documents over the years. My daughter. "Don't approve anything," I said firmly. "I'm coming right now." I dressed quickly and drove to the bank. The entire way, my thoughts ran wild. Maybe it wasn't her. Maybe it was identity theft. Maybe it was a mistake. But deep down, I already knew. The fraud officer, a young man named Marcus, showed me the file. The digital signature looked almost perfect, just slightly smoother than mine. The mom in Miller was shaped wrong. But if you didn't look carefully, you wouldn't notice. Whoever did this, Marcus said, had access to your income papers and the original loan contract. That's not something an outsider could get easily. I nodded slowly. "I understand," he continued. "We've frozen your account, filed a fraud alert, and reported this to the authorities. But you'll need to confirm whether you suspect someone specific." I stared at the screen, and for the first time in my life, I said the unthinkable. "I think my daughter did this." Marcus blinked but stayed calm. "We'll take it from here, ma'am. Thank you for being honest." On the drive home, anger and sadness fought inside me. I thought about the little girl who used to hug me after school, the teenager who promised to pay me back after Aspen, the woman who stood in front of hundreds of people and said another family had shown her love. And now, she had forged my name to steal from me. By the time I reached home, I was shaking. I picked up my phone and called Adam. He answered quickly. "Mrs. Miller, is everything okay?" "No, Adam, it isn't. Did you know Emily tried to increase my loan limit using my name?" Silence. Then a quiet sigh. "Mrs. Miller, I can explain." "Go ahead," I said. "She told me she was thinking about it," he admitted. "She said she was desperate. I told her it was a bad idea, that it was fraud. I didn't think she'd actually go through with it. But she did," I said. "Yes," he whispered. "She did." My hands were trembling. "Adam, where is she?" "At work," he said. "She doesn't know you found out." "I see. Thank you," I said. "And Adam?" "Yes, I'm calling the police." His breath caught. "Please don't." "Mrs. Miller, she made a mistake. She wasn't trying to steal. She just thought she could borrow the money and pay it back before you found out. She forged my name," I said quietly. "That's not borrowing. That's a crime. She'll lose everything," he said. "Her job, her career. She should have thought of that before she chose fraud." "Please," he begged. "Let me talk to her first. She's terrified. She's not thinking clearly." "It's too late for that," I said. My voice, calm but firm. "She's crossed a line I can't ignore." When I hung up, I sat in silence for a long time. For 22 years, I had protected her from consequences. Not anymore. That afternoon, I went to the local police station. The officer at the desk listened carefully and took my statement. He didn't look surprised. He'd probably seen worse. He asked if I wanted to press charges. I said yes. By the next morning, the report was filed. Emily Miller, my daughter, was under investigation for attempted fraud and forgery. It was the hardest thing I had ever done. But as I left the police station, I didn't cry. For the first time in years, I felt clear. It was painful clarity, the kind that cuts like glass, but lets you see everything clearly through it. 2 days later, I got the call. "Mrs. Miller," said a calm voice. "This is Detective Rodriguez from the Fairfield Police Department. We've taken your daughter, Emily Miller, into custody for attempted identity theft and bank fraud." I froze. "Where did it happen?" I asked. "At her workplace," he said. "She was arrested this morning. We'll keep you updated on the process." When I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and stared at the wall. I expected to cry. I expected to feel broken. But instead, I felt something strange. Relief. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the one cleaning up her mess. The system was. The world was finally showing Emily the one thing I never could: consequences. An hour later, the phone rang again. It was Adam. His voice was tight and full of panic. "They arrested her, Mrs. Miller. At work. In front of everyone." "I know," I said quietly. "The detective called me. She's been suspended. They took her computer. Everyone knows. This will ruin her." "Then maybe she should have thought about that before she forged her mother's name," I said. "You don't mean that," he said sharply. "You wanted her punished, but not destroyed." "I wanted her to learn," I said, "and she refused to." "She's your daughter," Adam shouted. "How can you let this happen? She's also a 42-year-old woman who committed a felony," I said. "That's not on me." He went quiet. Then he spoke again. Lower this time. "What if I told you this isn't the first time she's done something like this?" I felt my stomach drop. "What do you mean?" He sighed. "Last month, she forged my signature on a credit card application. She said it was temporary. I canceled it before she could use it. I thought it was a one-time thing. I was wrong." "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked. "Because I wanted to believe in her," he said softly. "I thought I could fix her." His words hit hard. Because that's exactly what I had done for 22 years. Believed and tried to fix her. "What are you going to do now?" I asked. "I don't know," he said. "I still love her. But I can't live like this. She lies. She manipulates. She thinks rules don't apply to her. She learned that from me," I said quietly, "because I never let her face the cost of her actions." There was a long silence. Then Adam asked something that I will never forget. "Do you think she can change?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said finally. "But not until she loses everything she used to take for granted. Not until she decides to rebuild her life from the ground up." "And do you think I should stay with her?" "I can't answer that," I said. "But I'll say this. You can't love someone into being honest." He sighed. "You're right." After we hung up, I made tea and sat by the window. Outside, autumn leaves were falling. The world looked calm. For the first time in years, I didn't feel trapped in Emily's chaos. A month later, the trial began. Emily pled guilty. She cried in court and said she never meant to hurt me. The judge sentenced her to 18 months in prison and 3 years of probation. Adam filed for divorce before the sentencing. I didn't go to court that day. I couldn't. I had spent enough years watching her hurt herself. This time, she had to face it alone. When the verdict came, I sat quietly at my kitchen table, the same place where I had once written checks for her bills, her school, her wedding. Now, I just wrote one sentence in my notebook. "Love doesn't mean saving someone from themselves," and I underlined it twice. 6 months passed after the trial. The first few weeks felt strange, quiet in a way that almost hurt. For so many years, my days had been filled with Emily's problems. Now there were none. No calls, no texts, no urgent requests, only silence. People asked if I missed her. The truth? I did. But not the version of her that had lived these past years. I missed the little girl who used to make cards with crooked hearts and say, "I love you, Mom." That child was gone, buried under years of pride and entitlement. I wasn't sure if she'd ever come back. Emily was in a minimum security prison, about 2 hours away. The officer who handled her case said she was quiet, polite, and spent most of her time reading or in counseling. I didn't visit. At first, I felt guilty for that. But then I remembered something I told Adam, that loving someone doesn't mean rescuing them. She had to face this herself. The newspapers called it a shocking family fraud. One small headline. A daughter who forged her mother's signature for $75,000. It wasn't front-page news, but it was enough to ruin her reputation at work and among her friends. Her old co-workers stopped returning calls. The Harrisons, her once real family, sent one short message to the court, expressing sympathy for me and disappointment in Emily. They never contacted her again. I spent that winter learning how to live quietly. I started walking every morning. I joined a library club. I cooked for myself again. Not quick meals eaten while rushing to solve someone else's crisis, but slow, warm dinners eaten in peace. I even picked up painting. The first thing I painted was a woman standing at a window, watching the sunrise, alone, strong, calm. I named it Freedom. Sometimes I thought about writing to Emily, but then I'd remember that letter she left under my door, full of apologies that didn't mean anything. I didn't want another letter filled with words that had no change behind them, so I waited. In March, a small white envelope arrived. No return address, just neat handwriting that I recognized instantly. I opened it carefully. Inside was a short note. Mom, I understand now. You were never trying to control me. You were trying to save me from becoming the person I became. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me yet. I just needed you to know that I finally see it. Love, Emily. I sat at my kitchen table and read it again and again. It wasn't long. It wasn't dramatic. But for the first time it sounded real. There were no excuses, no requests, just acceptance. I didn't write back. Not yet. But I placed the letter in a small box, the one where I kept her childhood drawings. When summer came, Emily's sentence was reduced for good behavior. She was released after 10 months. The probation officer called to inform me that she was planning to stay in a halfway house near the city while she looked for work. I thanked him and hung up. 2 days later, the phone rang again. Mom. Her voice was small. Yes, I said softly. It's me, she said. I'm out. I said nothing for a few seconds. That's good, I finally said. How are you feeling? Scared, she said. Honestly, everything feels different. I don't know where to start. Start small, I said. That's how people rebuild. I want to see you, she said quickly. Not for money, just to talk. Her tone was careful, humble. It wasn't the voice of the woman who once demanded things. It was the voice of someone who had lost everything and finally wanted to rebuild herself. I thought about it for a long moment. All right, I said. Dinner. My house. Sunday evening. When I hung up, I sat for a long time, looking at the wall. I didn't know what this meeting would bring, but I knew one thing. It wouldn't be like before. The days of rescuing her were over. This time, it would be a conversation between two adults. One who had learned through pain, and another who had finally learned through consequence. Sunday evening arrived. I cooked Emily's favorite, chicken stew with herbs, the same dish I used to make when she came home from school crying after bad days. When the doorbell rang, I took a deep breath and opened the door. She stood there, thinner, quieter, her hair tied back, her face without makeup. She looked older, not by years, but by truth. Hi, Mom, she said softly. Hi, Emily, I said. Come in. We sat at the table. The silence between us was heavy, but not angry, just full of things that had never been said. I like your place, she said, looking around. You've redecorated. I did, I said. It was time for a change. We ate quietly. Then she put her spoon down and looked at me. Mom, I don't have much to say except, thank you. For what? I asked. For not bailing me out, she said. For letting me fall, because if you hadn't, I'd still be lying, still pretending. I had to lose everything to see what I'd become. I nodded slowly. That's a hard thing to learn. She looked down. In prison, I met women who blamed everyone else for their choices. I started that way too. But then I realized I'd been blaming you my whole life. You didn't ruin my life. You gave me chances. I ruined them myself. Tears filled my eyes, but I didn't speak. I'm not asking for money, she said quickly. I just wanted to tell you I've found a job. It's small, at a local print shop. It doesn't pay much, but it's mine. And I'm renting a room near work. I'm finally living on my own money. I smiled faintly. That's good. You'll feel proud. I already do, she said. Then her voice broke. But I miss you, Mom. Not the money, you. I miss talking to you without feeling like I'm asking for something. I reached across the table and touched her hand. Then talk to me, Emily. You don't have to ask for anything. Just talk, she cried. Then quietly, like a child who finally understood what love really was. We talked for hours, about her job, her new roommates, how she wanted to volunteer somewhere to help other women rebuild their lives. She said she had joined a support group and was learning how to manage money. I've even started saving, she said, half smiling. Only $50 so far, but it feels like $1 million. I laughed softly. That's how you start. Small steps. When she left that night, she hugged me tightly. Not the kind of hug that says please forgive me, but the kind that says I'm trying to be better. As I closed the door, I felt something inside me loosen, a knot I had carried for 22 years. I walked to my small desk, opened the notebook where I'd written that one line months ago, and added another. Sometimes love means walking away until they learn to walk back. In the months that followed, Emily kept her word. She called once a week, not to ask, but to share. She sent pictures of her tiny rented room. She mailed me a birthday card she made herself. For the first time, her love didn't cost me anything, and slowly the guilt that had once ruled my heart began to fade. I realized something important. Love that requires debt isn't love. It's dependency, wearing a mask. For the first time in my life, I was both a mother and a free woman. No more loans, no more secret payments, no more pretending that money equals love. Just peace, just truth, just me. And when I looked at the painting I'd made months ago, the woman standing by the window watching the sunrise, I finally understood why I'd painted her smiling. Because she wasn't just watching the dawn. She was the dawn.